Have you ever believed that working harder would solve everything? That if you just pushed a little more, sacrificed a little more, then one day life would finally become easier? I used to believe that. Every morning before the sun came up, I was already awake, not because I wanted to be, but because I had to be. My day didn't start with coffee, it started with responsibility: bills to pay, rent to cover, food to put on the table, and most importantly, a little girl. My daughter. Her name was Emma. She was only 5 years old when I decided to take my second job. At that time, I told myself it was temporary. Just a few months, I thought, just until things get better. But a few months turned into a year, and one job turned into two. Then, eventually, three. In the morning, I worked at a small warehouse, lifting boxes, moving inventory, doing whatever needed to be done. In the afternoon, I drove for a delivery service, long hours, traffic, endless stops. And at night, I cleaned offices, empty buildings, quiet hallways, the kind of silence that slowly follows you home. 3 jobs, 3 different lives, all in one day. People used to ask me, "How do you do it?" I would smile and say, "For my daughter." And that answer always felt enough. Because every time I felt tired, every time my body ached, every time I wanted to give up, I thought about her. Her smile, her small hands, the way she used to run toward me when I came home. That memory kept me going. But slowly, something began to change. I didn't notice it at first, because when you're always busy, you don't see what you're losing. I started coming home later. Some nights, she was already asleep. Other nights, I was too tired to talk. She would sit next to me, trying to show me something: a drawing, a story from school, and I would nod, smile, but my eyes were already closing. "I'll look at it later," I would say. "Daddy is just tired." And she would nod, quietly, always understanding. Too understanding. For a child. At the time, I told myself something simple: I'm doing this for her. Everything I was building, every hour I worked, every moment I sacrificed, it was all for her future. A better school, a safer home, a more comfortable life. That's what mattered, right? But there was one thing I didn't realize back then. While I was busy building her future, I was slowly missing her present. And the present doesn't wait. It doesn't pause. It doesn't come back later. And by the time I started to understand that, something had already changed. Something I couldn't fix, just by working harder. At first, the changes were small. So small that I almost ignored them. Emma stopped running to the door when I came home. I told myself she was just growing up. Children change, right? They become quieter, more independent, less attached. That's normal. At least, that's what I wanted to believe. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. It was rare, almost strange. The house felt different, too quiet. I walked into the living room and saw her sitting on the floor. She was playing alone. No TV, no music, just silence. In front of her was a drawing, a simple picture: a house, a sun, a little girl. And next to her, a man. But something about it felt off. I looked closer. The man didn't have a face, just a shape, rough lines, incomplete. "Emma," I said softly, "what are you drawing?" She looked up at me. For a second, she didn't smile. Then she did. A small, polite smile. "This is our house," she said. "And this is me." She pointed at the little girl. "And this is you." Her finger moved to the man without a face. I forced a laugh. "Why doesn't he have a face?" I asked. She paused, just for a moment. Then she said something I will never forget. "Because I don't see it much." The room felt heavier, like the air had changed. I didn't know what to say. So I did what I always did. I smiled, I nodded, and I avoided the feeling growing inside me. That night, I went to my third job as usual, but something stayed with me. Her words: simple, honest, painfully clear, because children don't explain things the way adults do. They don't hide the truth, they just say what they feel. And sometimes, that truth is harder to hear than anything else. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly, I started noticing more. Emma stopped asking me to play. She stopped showing me her drawings. She stopped waiting for me at night. It wasn't anger, it wasn't even sadness. It was something worse. She was getting used to my absence. That realization hit me in a way exhaustion never did. Because being tired, you can recover from that. But being replaced, even quietly, that stays. One Sunday, I had a rare day off. No warehouse, no deliveries, no cleaning, just time. I sat at the table and watched her eat breakfast. She didn't talk much, didn't look up often. She had her own rhythm now, a life that didn't need me as much as before. Do you want to go to the park? I asked. The question felt unfamiliar, like I hadn't used it in years. She looked at me, surprised. Then she hesitated. I already told my friend I would play with her today. Her answer was gentle, careful, but it was clear. She had made plans, without me. And for the first time, I realized something I had been avoiding. I wasn't just working hard anymore. I was slowly becoming a stranger in my own daughter's life. After that Sunday, something inside me refused to stay quiet. I kept replaying small moments in my head. The drawing without a face, the way she no longer waited for me, the way she made plans, without even thinking to include me. It wasn't sudden, it was slow. So slow that I had almost missed it. But now that I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. That week, I tried something different. Nothing big, nothing dramatic, just small changes. I came home 10 minutes earlier, then 20. One night, I skipped my third job, just once. I told myself it wouldn't matter, just one night. But when I walked into the house, it felt unfamiliar, like I was entering a life that had been moving without me. Emma was sitting at the table, doing homework, her head slightly tilted, her pencil moving slowly. I stood there for a moment, watching, not saying anything, because I didn't know how to begin. How do you reconnect when you are the one who slowly disconnected? Hey, I finally said. She looked up, surprised again. You're home early. Her voice was calm, not excited, not disappointed, just neutral. And somehow, that hurt more. I thought maybe we could eat together, I said. The words felt simple, but heavy. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay. We sat across from each other. Same table, same house. But it felt like two different worlds. I tried to ask questions. How was school? It was fine. What did you learn? Math. Short answers. Polite, distant, like she was talking to someone she respected, but didn't really know. I realized then, this wasn't something I could fix in one night, or one conversation, or even one week, because distance is built slowly, and it doesn't disappear quickly. After dinner, she went back to her room. No invitation, no, do you want to play? Just routine. I sat alone in the living room, the same place where she used to sit beside me, the same place where I used to say, later. I'm tired. Not now. Those words came back to me, one by one, and for the first time, I heard them clearly, not as excuses, but as missed chances, missed moments, missed pieces of her childhood. That night, I didn't go back to work, not because I was tired, but because I finally understood something. I had been measuring everything in money, hours worked, bills paid, savings built, but I had never measured the things I was losing: time, connection, presence, the things that don't show up on paper, but shape everything. I went to her room and stood by the door. It was slightly open. Inside, she was drawing again, just like before. I knocked softly. Can I come in? She looked up, a little surprised, then nodded. I walked in slowly, sat down beside her, not too close, not too far. I'm sorry, I said. The words felt unfamiliar, but honest. She didn't respond right away, just looked at her drawing, then back at me. For what? She asked. And that question made me realize something even deeper. She didn't fully understand what had been lost, only that something had changed, and somehow, that made it even more important to try and find our way back. For what? She asked. Her voice was soft, not angry, not emotional, just curious. And that made it harder to answer. Because how do you explain absence to someone who quietly learned to live without you? I took a slow breath. For not being here, I said. The words felt simple, but they carried years inside them. She looked at me for a moment, then back at her drawing. You were working, she said, like it was obvious, like it was enough. And maybe, for her, it had to be. Because children find ways to make sense of things they don't fully understand. I know, I said, but I still missed a lot. She didn't answer, just kept drawing, the pencil moving slowly across the paper. I watched her hand. Small, steady, more grown than I remembered. Can I see? I asked gently. She turned the paper toward me. Another house, another sun, another version of us. This time, the man had a face, but it was faint, lightly drawn, like it could disappear if you looked away. I felt something tighten in my chest. Is that me? I asked. She nodded. I swallowed. Why is it so light? She paused, thinking. Then she said, because you come and go. The truth, again. Clear, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat alone in the kitchen. No noise, no distractions, just me and the life I had built. 3 jobs, a stable income, bills paid on time, a future that looked secure. On paper, everything was working. But in reality, something important was slipping away, something I couldn't earn back with money. I took out a piece of paper, and for the first time in years, I didn't write numbers. I wrote questions. What matters most? What am I trying to protect? And what am I losing while doing it? The answers didn't come immediately, but one feeling became clear. I couldn't keep going like this, not if it meant slowly fading from my daughter's life. The next day, I did something that scared me more than any long shift ever had. I spoke to my manager at the night job. I need to cut my hours, I said. He looked surprised. Are you sure? He asked. Most people ask for more. I nodded. I know. And that was the truth. For years, I had been asking for more hours, more money, more stability. But now, I was asking for something different, something I had ignored for too long. Time, real time, the kind you can't save, the kind you can't delay, the kind you either live or lose. That evening, I came home early again, not by accident, not as an exception, but as a choice. Emma was in the living room. She looked up as I walked in. There was that small moment again, surprise, uncertainty, then something new, a quiet question in her eyes. Are you staying? She asked. I smiled. A real smile this time. Yes, I said. I'm staying? Yes, I said. I'm staying. Those 2 words, they seemed simple, but they carried something I hadn't given her in a long time. Certainty. Emma didn't run toward me. She didn't smile widely. Not yet. Because trust doesn't return all at once. It comes back slowly, quietly, just like how it fades. But that night, she stayed in the living room. She didn't go back to her room right away. And that was enough. We sat together, not doing anything special, just being there. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about work or money or tomorrow's schedule. I was thinking about this moment, only this moment. Days turned into weeks, and I kept my promise. I reduced my hours. I came home earlier. I said yes more often. Yes, I can play. Yes, I can listen. Yes, I have time. At first, everything felt unfamiliar, like learning a new routine, a new way of living. But slowly, something beautiful started to happen. Emma began to open up again, not all at once, but little by little. She started showing me her drawings again, telling me small stories about her day, asking simple questions, the kind I used to miss. One evening, she handed me a piece of paper. I made this for you, she said. I took it carefully. Another drawing. A house, a sun, a little girl, and a man. This time, the man had a clear face, strong lines, present, there. I looked at it for a long moment, then at her. Is this me? I asked. She smiled. A real smile this time. Yes. I felt something shift inside me. Not relief, not pride, but gratitude. Because I knew I had been given something rare. A second chance. Not everyone gets that. Not everyone realizes in time. I still worked hard. Life didn't suddenly become easy. There were still bills, still responsibilities, still long days. But now, there was balance. There was presence. There was something I had almost lost. Connection. Looking back, I understand something I didn't see before. Providing for your child is important, but being there for your child is irreplaceable because money can build a life, but moments, they build memories, and memories, they build relationships. So if you're watching this and you're working hard for someone you love, take a moment. Ask yourself gently, are you building their future, but missing their present? Because one day, the present will be gone, and no amount of hard work can bring it back. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tonight, if you can, sit with the people you love. Listen to them. Look at them. Be there. Because sometimes, the greatest gift you can give is not what you earn, but your time.